Hello, Dr. Vandana ma'am. Thank you for joining the call.
Thank you for inviting me.
Good. So, anybody who's listening to this conversation, Dr. Vandana Krishnamurthy runs an urban Mali that is precisely works for the enabling home gardener. So, before I begin, ma'am, I wanted to ask you, where did this idea come from?
So, I am a botanist. I have a PhD in botany, and I love plants. Very passionate about plants ever since I did my degree in environmental science. But I never had the intention of being a wanting to make this into a business or be able to take on this part of. I love studying botany, but then one afternoon, I was just sitting in my balcony, and there were some empty pots that were left behind by the previous owners. And I was eating a tomato salad, and I randomly dropped a tomato seed into one of those pots. And just out of curiosity, like, oh, I have black hands, nothing is ever going to grow. Let's see what happens. But what do you know, in like 45 days, I was able to harvest my very first tomato. And that's where the journey all started.
And this is you are referring to what timeline?
Somewhere around 2016 or so.
Okay, okay. So that was the initial journey that tomato seed fall into the pot, and that's how it grew, and then that's the
Exactly.
idea click in, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I then went ahead because it was so inspiring that whole experience was very inspiring. So I then went ahead and I got permission from the apartment to be able to have a terrace garden. So I had almost 60 reused paint buckets on my terrace where I was growing different kinds of medicinal plants, vegetable plants, herbs, all of that, and I barely had to buy any veggies from the market anymore because I had everything growing in my terrace.
So is it a collective effort, or you started with having then access to the society terrace, and then you started it all alone, and then gradually it picked up? Is it?
It was just me. Nobody partook in it. Everybody loved going to the terrace and enjoying the garden. But yeah, it was just my own enthusiasm, and I would have a gardener who would come from time to time to help me out.
Okay. So as you said that most of your vegetables come from your own terrace garden, is it?
Yes, that's when I did that. I was living in another place. Then I started helping out few of my friends and families to set up their own garden. So that was exciting as well. So then Urban Mali was born because I just loved how everybody got so excited about seeing their garden come to life and being able to harvest the very first vegetables and getting stuff out of their own garden for their everyday cooking. So that's when I started Urban Mali.
That's lovely. That's in fact one of the major initiative that in fact most of us have witnessed, especially in Bangalore, that there are a lot of home gardeners have. Maybe you might be the one of the initial baby step that you have taken. Probably could be the one of the major factor that has driving. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are the major services that you offer as part of the Urban Mali? Because you did mention quite a few on your website, but would
Right.
be great if you could just highlight some of them.
So, majorly, we set up and we maintain gardens, and we also have a nursery where we're able to provide urban gardeners with everything they require for gardening, from potting soil to um, plants, seeds, all of that. So, in our setup services, you have a empty space. You want to set up a garden. We set it up for you. You have a garden that's gone out of shape. You want to renovate it, we consider that a setup as well. So that's one part of it. But the journey of a garden just doesn't end at a setup. You need to maintain your garden, and that's where a lot of effort goes into just taking care of your plants every day. Even watering your plants is your effort, but sometimes you have to loosen up the soil. You have to take care that there are no pests and insect infestations or fungus, so all of that is considered the garden maintenance part of things. So that's when we have teams of gardeners who go across different homes every day in Bangalore maintaining people's gardens.
Okay, and the services vary based on the size, the kind of plant, the kind of area that that garden is into, or is
Yes.
it like a standard price for service offering? Is it?
So we've created different permutation and combinations so that people with gardens of different sizes can opt for our services, considering what is required for their garden. So one is we have a 2 hour, 4 hour, and 8 hour service. A 2 hour is
Okay.
typically something that balcony gardener would opt for because he doesn't have so many plants and he just needs a gardener to come in and service them for a short period of time. We also have the gardener come in either once a week, once a fortnight, or once a month as well. So again, depending on the scale and size of the garden, and customers can opt to sign up with us either for a 3 month package based on these two first two parameters, or a 6 months or a 12 month. So we've kind of tried to make it as interesting as possible for different kinds of customers, different kinds of gardens. And yeah, I mean, we've had some really long term customers with us. We started in 2017. So since then, we have people who just walk this journey along with us ever since then.
It sounds more of a subscription model where one can go for the monthly
Yes,
six
exactly.
month and the annual subscription, is it?
Exactly, because it's not, if you have a garden, you have a gardener come in just once in a year. It's not going to make an impact because the plants are going to grow. It's going to need certain fertilizers and all of that. So the subscription models where you can book a gardener, have a gardener come regularly, it makes the most sense because when a gardener touches your garden, that's a different experience for the plant. I guess we know stuff like if you're an ardent gardener or you're very knowledgeable and you're interested in being able to, learn about your plants, that's good. But having a gardener come, it makes a whole lot of difference.
Correct, correct. So you are also advising with respect to basis on the area, basis on the house location, and basis on the what sort of the house is into, that
Exactly.
what sort of plant you should grow. Is that also comes as a part of your service advisory?
We usually tie it up with either one of these because people, it's not, I mean, it's not that it ends at advisory. They also would look for someone to do the work for them, or
Correct.
reshape their garden based on what it actually needs. So gardens are either I mean, they have good amount of sunlight, or they have diffuse light or in shade. So the plants vary in these kind of conditions as well. So you need to, like your flowering plants and your vegetable plants, they love 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. On the other hand, foliage plants like ferns and your money plant and all of that, they can grow very well in 2 to 4 hours of sunlight as well. So really depends, and a lot of the gardens in Bangalore, you either have a tall tree that's overlooking your balcony, or a lot of them are in shaded spaces. So the kind of plants that we put there are very different.
Okay, okay. So the next question is home gardening. The concept itself pretty new to in India. As you have started, and Bangalore lead by the example with respect to you are heading it, and there are quite a few other initiatives out there. But
Right.
having said that, there are a lot of people, those who actually aspire to build a home garden kind of thing, or because the way it is, 60 to 70%, or maybe I may be wrong with respect to the percentage, people who stay on a rental basis, they may not have an access to the balcony, or even if they have the balcony, there is no proper sunlight is coming in the in the area. So they not have a leverage. So in that case, what are the pieces of advice that you may have?
So for one, this, I mean, if someone has a limited space, they're staying in a rental home, they don't want to invest so much into their garden. It's good to try and do stuff by yourself, wherein you use your old buckets, old mugs. Try and see if your friends and family can give you cuttings. Get some soil and manure from the closest nurseries. So there are a lot of frugal sort of ways that you can go about to set up your own garden. If you are having a garden that is in limited light, you have some diffuse light coming in, like I was saying, plants like money plants, philodendrons, ferns, monstera, all these plants like to grow in lesser amount of sunlight. So if you look at the forest canopy, these plants that need lesser amount of sunlight are always at the floor of the forest. So they have evolved to be able to grow in lesser amounts of light. So they would put out more leaves and bigger leaves and things like that, so they can capture as much light as possible. But they wouldn't have flowers, because for a plant to make a flower or make a fruit, it's a very expensive activity. So you need ample sunlight and resources to be able to do that. So these plants that have evolved to grow in lesser amounts of light, they know that, hey, okay, I'm not getting so much of light. What do I need to survive? I just need to be able to grow and be able to produce additional babies in some other way. So let me just focus on having good leaves, because leaves are where photosynthesis happens, where the food is created for the plants. So they will focus on having more leaves and stuff. So it's always nice to kind of step back and look at how the plant perceives the environment that it grows in. So if you have a nice terrace and ample sunlight there, then grow veggies. You use your old buckets and all. Get some soil and manure. Get into your kitchen and check what seeds you have right there. So coriander is something that you can get out of your kitchen. Methi seeds are something you can get out of your kitchen. The dried red chilies, those seeds can be used to grow chili plants as well. So there's a lot that you can get from your own kitchen. So start small, start experiencing what you can do with really limited ways. Once you see and harvest that first batch of methi, that bunch of freshly
Mm.
grown leaves by you, that experience is incomparable to anything else. So once you start, doing that, I'm certain that you won't stop right there.
Totally, totally. In fact, I myself have done it. I know for a
Yeah.
matter of fact that's a different experience no matter wherever you have bought it. But once you have grown at your own, it at the same time it also creates a very positive environment in and around. So
Right.
that's how the nature plays the role as well. But
Right.
based on your experience, you have been into the over the years together. What are the major challenges that you see when people try to, especially in urban areas, cities like Bangalore, Mumbai, and so on and so forth, where the space is not only the constraint, but even for this aspect to the mindset, though the people want to, but most of the time they claim to be busy. What are the other challenges that you see that people mostly go through, even those who aspire to do so?
So I think time and effort are the biggest things. People don't have the time to be able to attend to their garden. I mean, at the least, you need to be able to water your plants. And sometimes gardening can also be an effort oriented activity. You need to bend down and dig your, loosen up your soil. You need to like lift a few pots and stuff. So if you kind of equate that to a gym workout, then you'll be very happy to do this, because it does include a lot of exercise and manual work. So those are the few challenges that people have. Additionally, if you are not attending to your garden regularly, you're not having the time to attend to it. Maybe you missed watering it, or you missed watering it for a long period of time, and then you suddenly watered it way too much. All of that transpires to shock for the plant. And when the plant goes to certain amount of shock, it tends to protect itself, but it also becomes very weak in terms of immunity. When the plant's immunity drops, that's when pests and diseases attract it. So just like us, we don't eat on time, or we don't eat the right food, we tend to get different illnesses. We fall sick very often, things like that, or we're not eating nutritious food. That's what happens if you're not giving your plants manure on time, or you're not watering it on time. Then that definitely does hurt the immunity of the plant, and it becomes vulnerable to different pests and diseases. So just take care of your plants on a regular basis. Set a schedule for yourself that you're watering it. Another thing to understand is that it's not just about watering your plants every day. It also you need to understand from the plant's perspective that, okay, if you watered it yesterday and you come and look at your plant today and the soil is still a little moist, then don't water it, because that means that the roots already have ample water around it. If you check your plant and you're seeing that the soil is dry, and you dig a little bit, see that it's dry even there, then please water it. Sometimes what happens is the topsoil gets very dry, but then if you actually dig little bit inside, you'll see that it's super moist there. So the roots, the moisture is there around the roots. The plant can take in only what it needs. It won't take in so much that It doesn't need at all. Okay, so if there's too much watering happening, the roots start rotting, and then that really affects the health of the plant. You will see that translate into fungal diseases and all for the plant, which then it does affect its health. So water wisely, water when it's required. Try and understand what your plant requires. It really helps. Manure your plants once a month at least a handful of manure, or loosen up the topsoil and put it on the topsoil. Gives good nutrition for the plants. And I mean, apart from that, learn about your plant. Is it a sun loving plant? Is it a plant that likes shade? And accordingly place it. Say if you place a shade loving plant in the sun, you will see that the plant leaves gets burnt, and sometimes to the effect that you're not able to rectify it, bring it back to life. So learn a little bit about your plants, and it's good fun. It's good fun to learn the names of plants. It's good fun to learn where it grows, where it comes from. So it's a real joyous activity.
I wanted to hang on the same conversation and the pointers that you made. One is about the pesticides, and
Mhm.
second, with respect to the watering. In fact, there is a lot of misconception. But if there is a plant, you got to water it daily basis without knowing the fact that both soil is still moisturized, or maybe that there might be the wetting. But at the
Mm.
same time, there is a lot of misconception. In fact, I myself have faced when I have had a lot of plants. A lot
Yeah.
of mosquitoes have started coming a lot every now and then. And this is not I'm referring to the only the evening time, but even in the morning time as well. So in that case, is it more about understanding the plants and using what sort of composite that we are using, or is it something that, or rather, I'll put it very simple, how to deal with that. Second
So
is,
huh,
sorry
go
to
ahead.
hang you. And the second question is with respect to watering as well. I understand that there's again a lot of misconception. Boss, add the water, pour the water, and so on and so forth. But in that case, there is also that if it get excess water, there's a very high chances that plant may die. But
Right.
with regards to adding the composite or adding the cocoa pit sort of
Mm-hmm.
things, in that case, does it vary based on the plant to plant, or
Mm-hmm.
does it also vary based on the seasons to season and the timing? If you could just emphasize on those practices.
So I'll get to your first question, talking about mosquitoes. Mosquitoes will come to a place or space when there's stagnant water. So if there is stagnant water in your plants, you're seeing that you water it and the water doesn't drain out, and the water sort of settles on the top of the soil, that means that your pot or your planter or any part of your soil is having a drainage issue. So with a container, it's very easy. You look at where the drainage hole is, try and put in something like a chopstick or a
Some-
screwdriver, something like that. Put it in and loosen up the soil from the bottom end so that the extra water can drain out. Okay. Also, sometimes your soil, your potting media is very clayey. It's sort of very sticky and it's not having good amount of drainage. So the water always stagnates. So then you really have to be able to remove that soil, dry it out, put in new soil, new fertilizer, and make the potting mix more porous. See, when water is poured to a plant, the additional water has to drain out. That's like one major rule. The plant, along the way, the roots will get moist, it will take in how much it needs, and the additional water, it requires it to be drained out. It's not drained out, it gets stagnates, plant dies, mosquitoes come in. Also, the if you have a plate under your pot which is holding that additional drained out water and that is stagnating for long, that's another very interesting space for mosquitoes to lay their eggs and the larvae to multiply and again have mosquitoes there. So that's the part about mosquitoes. So remember, your soil has to drain out water and not stagnate any water. The second thing is, yes, there is a difference in fertilizer application for different plants. Plants that are there in the sun, I mean, the sun loving plants, also your vegetable plants, which produce fruit and flowers. Like I said, it's an expensive activity for the plant. So, those plants require a little more fertilizer. If you're seeing your plant is in the flowering stage, then for instance, you see tomato flowers on your tomato plant, you know that the next stage is going to be the tomato fruit. At that stage, fertilizing is very important because the plant is drawing out as much nutrition it can from the soil. So the flowering stage or fruiting stage, very important times to be able to fertilize your plants. Also season in the sense, for instance, you have a mango tree in your house, or there's a plant that is fruit is producing the fruits at a particular season. All our gourds like bitter gourd, bottle gourd, all of them, they produce during the summer season. So when you're planting the plants earlier in the year, and the plant germinates and it's coming to a point where it's going to now grow into, it's a growth stage, that's when fertilizer is very important. So for veggies, little more knowledge is needed on what are the different stages of growth, what's the life cycle of the plant, when are the important stages, and therefore then what to fertilize when and stuff. Your shade loving plants are more hardier. Okay, so you may need to fertilize them a little bit every month, but they don't need very specific fertilization. Good well drained soil is very important for them, because even though they grow in the shade, the one main aspect there is there's no sunlight to dry out the soil. There's lesser amounts of sunlight, so therefore we need to focus a lot on draining capacity of the soil. uh, since it's not drying out so fast, we need to ensure that well drained soil helps the water drain out.
Okay, okay. So precisely one got to do the homework entirely.
And there's very
I mean,
easy.
at least need to understand their the
You need
kind of
to,
plant that they are planting precisely and
yeah.
what sort of.
The sad thing is that we go and pick up these plants in the nurseries.
Hmm.
Many nurserymen won't give you the knowledge that you need, because their job is to sell the plants. So you need to drill it out of them, or take a little bit of time. It's just look up whichever plant. Now with the Google Lens and all, you can just scan. I mean, take a photo of the plant. You get to know what is the name, and then immediately are able to learn about how to grow this plant.
Okay, okay. I want to add on to the same conversation that I wanted to have is with regards to the pot that we use. There's a
Mhm.
lot of emphasis on using the mud pot instead of having the plastic pots.
Mhm.
And as you yourself have mentioned, you can use the buckets and so on and so forth. But with respect to, in my experience, and probably you may have also felt the same way, that the moment we start using the plastic pod altogether,
Mhm.
somewhere the plant's life get somewhere compromised. Is that how it is, or is it something as a misconception that just
Not,
goes around?
there is nothing that leaches out of the pot into this soil, and it creates a toxic environment. Nothing like that. Plastic pots have a shorter lifespan, because if you're putting them out into the sunlight, they tend to get very they fade out, one, and they become very brittle and they start breaking up. But at the same time, your mud pots are also a little delicate in that sense that something hits them a little bit, they can break as well. So I guess it really matters on what kind of a person you are and what you want to see in your garden. Now FRP pots, which are part plastic, have is also really taken over the gardening industry, where they're able to make really exquisite looking contemporary planters that look so good, and they have also last very long. Um, on the other hand, we have this concrete plants which are super heavy. They hold good amounts of yeah, soil. They can make it in different sizes, but they're very heavy to lift. So if you are a home gardener, lifting these pots around, if you like to change your garden around, it may be a bit of a challenge. But they're very long lasting. They don't break easily, and they retain their strength for a long period of time.
Okay, so in a way, if I understood it right, so the kind of pot is having, whether it's a plastic or the mud, it does not make a major difference, is it?
No, it doesn't make a difference to your plant.
Okay, okay. It's more about the maintenance rather, because there is an assumption or there is also an understanding when you have the mud pot altogether,
Mhm.
the air flows or maybe the oxygen flows, what is being said, it's pretty easy as compared to the plastic pot.
I mean, yes, that in that sense, the porosity is there in the mud pot. So, if, for instance, your drainage hole is blocked for whatever reason, the additional moisture is also able to go out from these pores of the mud or
Correct.
the terracotta pot. So, it's a good material. It is, a material that is also very natural. It's more like connected to the earth. So, it's definitely good. Apart from the fact that it can break,
Okay.
so it keeps the soil cool enough. It doesn't like over dry it, nor does it, let it be too much of moisture as well. So it's a good material to use.
Okay, so it's good to have it, but not as such mandatory to have it.
No, no.
Okay.
You
Okay.
can grow, nowadays people have grow bags also. They're growing stuff in bags as well. So it's the idea is you need a container to contain your soil and some where you can make a hole and grow stuff. So I don't think there is any sort of hard and fast rule on what you should and should not have as containers in your garden.
Okay. Okay. So now I want you to talk about something very interesting with regards to technology evolvement and
Hmm.
artificial intelligence and the sensors are coming very, very prominent altogether in terms of even in agriculture altogether. Do you think that one can actually leverage, not immediately, but down the line, maybe close to 10 years down the line, that they can actually leverage these things to help somewhere in close to, you may say, as a home gardening or the terrace garden, or maybe those who have a bigger space close to thousand square feet.
Hmm. Well, to some extent, people have already, started utilizing these things where it comes to irrigation. So, watering your plants does not have to be a manual activity anymore. If you have a good irrigation system that not just waters your plants, but also senses the moisture in the garden. You have sensors which can sense how much moisture is there in
Okay.
your, and then if it has lesser moisture, be able to get some water to come in and water the plants. You have sensors that also sense on what nutrients are there, what nutrients are lacking, how much is the pH. So all of that sort of in-depth understanding with the use of different equipment and sensors is there. I mean, it's not a very prominent, but because it also costs a lot at the moment, but it definitely exists. I mean, like if you look at farming, the way technology is developing, that tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but then few years down the line, you may not even need farmers. You have very sophisticated equipment that can not just till your soil, but then plant your plants and put your fertilizer and harvest your plants. So I'm certain that whatever is applicable to farming can, in very many different ways, be applicable to gardening as well. So it's just a matter of time that you could even be growing with absolutely zero natural light. You can grow plants indoors with the different grow lights and UV lights that you have. So people are doing it now. Very soon we'll be growing food indoors as well. So that reality will definitely hit.
Okay, so the things are on ground happening, but at a larger scale, maybe in the farming
Because
segment or the agriculture precisely. But
it
when it comes to the smaller segment, it will take time.
so people also have created home gardener hydroponic kits. So you're able to grow
Home
food.
gardening, hypotronics.
Home gardener hydroponics. So growing hydroponics, right? Growing food. I mean plants in water by just
Okay,
having
oh yeah,
the
correct, correct, correct.
natural salts and all that in the water, so plants are able to take in nutrients from those salts. So they have created these smaller kits that you can keep in your balcony, on your terrace and all that. So it's all happening. Maintenance is important, to a large extent. You need to take care of these systems. But yeah, I mean, it definitely is in that direction.
Okay, okay. So going by the India's historic agriculture altogether, because India has been considered as the agriculture driven country, or maybe the main source of employment sector that is created. Uh, how do you see this home gardening altogether as an aspect is changing? At the same time, maybe something is the future landscape of home gardening may be changing with respect to altogether, given the background of India's rich history in agriculture. Do you think it's gonna change with respect to the demand and supply, or maybe one can also it may eventually turn up to a major source of supply too.
Very, very certainly could. I mean, if you look at the terrace spaces that we have, if you just do a Google terrain search and look at all the empty terrace spaces, that can very
Yeah,
easily become productive zones. Well, many years ago, Cuba went through a difficult period where they couldn't export a lot of their food. So people started growing stuff vertically on their terraces, in
correct.
their backyard. See, they converted every bit of space into a productive zone. So the opportunity is definitely there. It's just you know the desire to take it in that direction, and also infrastructure wise, what do we have? What can we use? So I think that it's very much possible. In fact, a few people are also trying to make this happen as a community initiative, get people to grow their own food, either in community spaces or terraces and stuff. So I feel like if we pushed against the wall like Cuba, even we would be doing the same thing. But yeah, I mean, it's very much a possibility.
Yeah, I guess so. One or two projects I myself have seen, not exactly in India, but what I have seen in the Google in and around vertical gardening that has
Mm-hmm.
started happening in large scale building, which personally what I've it's especially I've seen in China, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure how far is the reality, but that's how it is. And
It's there, but it's not a viral sensation as yet. So
okay,
um, people are definitely trying, and urban gardeners are also. If you're a passionate gardener, you will get creative. So maybe we haven't seen it, but people are doing interesting stuff in their gardens.
okay. Maybe one of the major could be that it has not come yet in media. Maybe it is as you said. It is
It started for sure, so it's happening.
okay. Okay. So any memorable experience that you have had been able to impact in one's life with your initiative as an urban Mali that you wanted to that you may share.
See, gardening is such a career line that every day is inspiring. I mean, you plant a plant, you see a butterfly come to the plant. There are so many things that make you just so happy. I love hearing stories where customers would reach out and say, you know what, today my son harvested half a kg of bindi from his plant, and that we set up. Or today, someone call and say, I took so many photographs of so many butterflies because you set up the butterfly garden for us. Or people send us their photographs constantly from time to time, saying that, see, look at my garden now. So it's a service that we are doing for the world, for nature, and anything that we do goes a very, very long way. And all of our gardeners are migrant farmers. So a lot of the farmers who have agricultural debts or come to the city looking for opportunities, we are able to network with them through our existing gardeners, and we see how we can put them into this beautiful model where they are able to earn a better livelihood, and they put their knowledge to use in terms of working with the soil. They know so much about plants as well, so growing plants. So we have both the social and environmental impact business as such. So even hearing stories of gardeners who've been working with us, who've been one able to pay back their agricultural debt, and they're no longer they're completely debt free now, or somebody who's even able to save up money over the last year or so goes and buys a two-wheeler of his own. All those stories really have a very lasting impact.
And these all stories are from Bangalore.
Yes, only from Bangalore because we're only here, right? Mhm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so my last question is with respect to the urban Mali itself. If somebody starting altogether as a home gardening journey altogether, I know we have had to discuss understanding the plants, which sort of plant that you are trying to procure, or maybe planning to plant it. Any piece of best practices that you may suggest as in terms of what they should consider basis on the rental place there where they're staying?
Um, Definitely, like I was saying, understand your plants first. When you go to a nursery, don't be mesmerized by all of the flowering plants that are there and then get it back home
Oh
and
yeah,
see that.
that
Yeah.
impacts a big time.
Yeah. So try and understand how much light is there in your balcony or your, garden space, and then buy plants accordingly. So put a little bit of effort to understand. We also have a lot of videos that we've made on our Instagram and YouTube, and there are a lot of ardent gardeners who talk about these things. So there's enough and more information out there on individual plants as well as gardening in general. Second thing is, once you figured out your space, try and figure out, how many pots you can put there. So then plan that accordingly. Don't get too many pots and then suddenly see that you have absolutely no space. And if you're starting, also start small. If you want to just start with 5 pots, start with 5 pots. Try and understand what it takes to be able to take care of these 5 pots, and then in good amounts of time increase the number of pots that you have in your garden space. What happens is, if you start with like 20 pots and then you see all 20 are dying because you've not had the time or effort or inclination to be able to take care of them, then that's heartbreak. And if we are not connected to our plants, then we'll have heartbreak very often. So start small, figure it out how it goes, and just have fun, because gardening is like a super fun activity, and it really teaches you a lot about nature. Yeah.
Beautiful. So one more thing I wanted to ask you. So with regards to there's a lot of news in and around when it comes to the summer season, water scarcity, water get hard. And when some of the regions of not only Bangalore, in fact, most of the major cities get waters are pretty hard. So in
Mhm.
that case, people hesitate to pour those water into the plant because of XYZ reason. Does that really makes a difference? And
See,
in that case, what are the something that you can suggest when an area altogether going through a water scarcity? Because Bangalore itself have gone through last summer that was tough time, and what
Mhm.
it was difficult.
Mhm. So one is all these traditional practices of farming and sorry, one all these traditional practices of farming teach us a lot about gardening as well. You need to mulch your garden. You all the dry leaves that you collect during the leaf fall season, you can actually connect them and put them on the topsoil to cover the topsoil with leaves. Leaves help to retain the moisture of the plants. You don't have to water your plants so often, and even if you water them, like say today, in about 4 or 5 days time, then you'll have to water it the next time. So mulching helps retain the soil moisture, and it also breaks down over time, so it even produces nutrients that are beneficial for the plant and the soil as well. So that's one way. Second thing is, ensure that your plant is doing well. Water is draining out, and things like that. The plant is just getting enough that it needs. Yeah, you don't have to like. It shouldn't be that your pot is full of cocoa peat and all the water that you're putting is all draining out, so the plants are not getting. So good mix of soil, manure, and cocoa peat is required for the plants in general. So typically 60% of soil, 20% of manure, and 20% of cocoa peat is something that's good for a potting medium. So have a good media mix as well. And plants are also, they also go through stress periods when there's intense sunlight and things like that. So at those points of time, it's good to move your plants to a place where they get a little bit of shade, so that they're not exposed to so much intense sunlight that they have to go through that cycle of dryness and then eventually death. So that's one way in which you can take care of the water uh, requirements that your plants have. And we wash our rice and dal, and so much of water gets wasted in the kitchen as well, or you can easily save that water and put it for your plants, so they get a good amount of nutrition and from that as well.
Okay, and adding to the same question, so adding those hard water. I mean,
Mhm.
when I say because the water get pretty hard with respect to because when you're pulling it out and so on and so forth, if that is being added, does that actually kill the plant?
So if you're having exotic plants, see, Native plants are hardy. Native plants, I mean plants that are native to this part of the world, this part of India,
Okay, okay,
right? They are hardy plants. They are used to what is the soil type and the water requirements. Everything they used to that. If you grow very exotic plants which are from some other part of the world and try to grow them here, they may definitely get impacted by hard water and stuff. So, and also plants are very intelligent in that sense that they will take only what they want. They need this amount, this calcium or magnesium, silica. They will take what it is deficient in. They will not take what they don't need. So
okay,
again, you don't have to over pamper your garden and put too much water and all. They're actually self sufficient. They know how to manage.
okay. So precisely, plants is especially the homegrown plant or maybe the this part of the
Ne-
plant. They know what to take, what not to take, even if it's a hard water.
Right.
Okay, perfect, ma'am. I mean, these were the pretty eyesight opening for me as well, and thank you so much for your input.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for this opportunity. Had a
So
lovely time.
I will be sharing your social media accounts and the entire details. So anybody who wants to follow, and then probably
Yeah.
you may reach out to Urban Mali herself and give the best of tips and advices. Thank you so much for your time.